G'day guys, Sam here. Today we are going to work on your cash flow, and the main area that we're focusing on today is actually about managing our money and how to manage our cash flow so that we are having a very simple system to plan ahead for the future. So this set of workshops is exactly what would have helped me get bill clean from that $1 million mark up to the $3 million mark a lot sooner. And this roadmap that I'm just putting out for you here is something that I wish that I had during this early growth phase so that I could have got to that 10 mil mark a lot quicker. So everything that I'm doing is kind of remapping what has been done previously and trying to avoid any of the idiot tax that I had to pay along the way. So today we're working on our cash buckets, following that theme of cash flow and better managing our money. So we've got a little snapshot here. We're going to run through some problems that I see people make, kind of the dream outcome, and then a couple things to avoid as well. And then I'll break down exactly what strategy we're using here. It's very simple, very straightforward, just a little bit of money management. And then I'll set you on your way with some action items as well. So often, and far too often, I see guys coming to me and their biggest problem is they just don't have any cash. Now, this kind of lets you, or kind of positions you where you live like week to week, pay run to pay run. And it's not where we want to be. I also see guys having massive problems with their ATO bills because we're not planning ahead for when that bill comes up. And then also, we're not really making, well, I see a lot of guys not making any progress because they're so concerned about, surviving as opposed to thriving. So this dream outcome that we're going to lay out for us, or for you, is something that's going to enable us to get some cash reserves so that we can be our own bank. We want to be prepared for ATO bills so that we know when they're coming up, we know how to track them. And we're also putting cash away for it. And then I would love for everybody to have deep sleep nights. So we're not thinking about how we're going to make payroll or supplier bills coming up the following day. I want to make sure that we're managing our money properly and reducing unnecessary stress. Business is already fucking hard enough and we don't need to bring in any additional pain on ourselves. So let's get into it. Before we do, a couple things quickly to avoid as well. I want you to avoid just having a single transaction account. I know a lot of you run the profit first principle. This is very similar. It's just a simplified version to make life a little bit easier for us. I want you to avoid having no plan. We need to manage our money and how money comes into our account and how we're holding on to that money so that we're making right decisions. And also, please just don't be ignorant. Don't think that somebody else will fix this for us, or that the accountant or the bookkeeper is handling it. This is your money and you need to be on top of it and be managing it. So this is a chart for you to better help you understand how money comes into our bank, and then how we should be thinking about that cash as well. So if we imagine that this whole lot, 100% being all of the cash that comes into our income account or our main trading account, we need to know that a portion of that is not actually ours and that only a small portion of that is the profit that we've made. Now, I've made some quick assumptions here about tax and profit, and we're just going to quickly have a discussion about what that means in a moment. But first, we know that a portion of the money comes into our account goes to things like GST, PAYG, and then our business tax, our income tax. So, and then also a little bit of it goes to our profit margin. You know, if we are making a profit margin and we should have some of that money coming in, goes to our profit. And then the remainder is left for us to be able to run the business. So that's really our operating expenses and everything else that comes in and out of our trading account. So we need to define a system that enables us to take out some of that cash from our account from our general trading account and put it somewhere in a safe haven. So the whole idea of today is to let you know that we can stockpile cash. All we have to do is make sure that we're willing to live like no one will today so that we live like no one can tomorrow. The whole principle here is that we need to live within our means while the company's growing until this becomes a cash cow, a real cash generating engine. And then we will have the available surplus to do the holidays and to buy the nice cars and to move houses and all of those things that we really want to do. We just need to bide our time. We're not quite at the position where they are a viable option. Now, I know some people as well can't change their lifestyle, and that means that very quickly you need to increase revenue and increase profit. If you're not willing to adjust or change your lifestyle, then we need to put more in the top so there's more in the bottom. Now, we touched on quickly the money that comes into our account is not profit and it's not always ours. So we need to identify how much of it is and then make some assumptions based on where we should be putting our money. So if we just imagine we've got our income, we've got a tax account and profit. Now the profit first principle is a very similar setup. It just moves the profit account first where you pay yourself profit. Now what we are doing here is actually moving tax first, tax being the priority, because if the ATO shuts you down, it doesn't matter how much profit you've got to pay your ATO bill first. So what we have here is we're going to make some assumptions. So we're going to say that all the money that comes into our bank account, we need to assign some of it. So let's say all the money that comes in, we've got 100% coming in. Straight off the bat, 10% of that needs to go over to GST, because that's something that's factored into our invoices. Obviously, you'll be registered for GST if you're doing over $70,000 a year. We need to make sure that the portion of GST is taken out and not going, we're not making decisions based on, oh, we can spend, this extra $10,000 because on 100 grand's worth of revenue, that's all assigned to GST. Now, we also need to pay some PAYG or just have a certain buffer for income tax. So if you're paying guys as contractors as opposed to employees, then there'll be a direct portion that would have gone to PAYG, which will be taken out and probably added to profitability. So nonetheless, you will have to pay that tax balance eventually. We are just making sure that we're assigning some to it first. And generally, the companies that I see can put away about 15% of all money coming in to cover that balance, which gives us a starting balance of 25%. So all money that comes into your bank account, all your invoices paid, typically, once a week around payroll, you're going to be transferring 25% out of the total sum that's come into your bank. So say 40 grand's come into your bank account, you're going to be taking 10 out and you'll be putting that into the tax account, which will sit here. And then you'll also be transferring 4K if your net profit margin is 10%. This is just an assumption, but you'll be transferring 4K over to the profit account, which should then leave you with quick math, 16, so 24,000 in your income account, which would be how much you would then be able to continue operating the business. So if you're not doing any more financial performance measurement than that, then you'll know that you can still buy what you need to, operating from what's in the income account, knowing that you can't touch the tax and profit accounts. But if you're watching this video and you're starting to learn more about the business, there's no way you're going to be managing your performance based just on the cash that comes into your account. This is just one piece of a larger environment that we need to understand. So, talking about this divvy up, I'm just going to explain this again to make sure that we all understand it. We have all the money, all of our invoices paid come into our income account. We're going to do 2 transactions at a periodical time. Whenever you do payroll is a really good time to do this because you've already got your bank account open, you've already got Xero open, it's just really easy to do. Now our assumptions at the start are going to be to move 25% of all the money that comes into our account for that period, for that week, move 25% of that over to our tax account, and then move 10% over to our profit account. Now, we just need to make sure that in the previous workshop that you would have done about the financial forecast. That's going to let you know on average what your net profit margin is. Use that margin. If you haven't done that workshop, go back and watch it so that you do know what the right net profit margin is. It could be 8%, it could be 16, it could be 32. Okay, but that's generally how we're doing our transactions. Now, you're probably looking at it and going, yes, 40 grand probably came into the account last week, but I don't have the cash there to do it. Or if I move that money out, then next payroll, I haven't got any invoices coming in. There's no invoices due to be paid in the next 7 days. What if I run out of money? We need to create an IOU because it's not a perfect world. And in here, we've got our tax and we've got our profit. And sometimes you are going to need to lend money to yourself. Sometimes you're going to have, we've got a dollar balance in here. Sometimes you're going to transfer that out. And then sometimes you're going to transfer that back in order to meet payroll or meet a supplier bill. What we need to do is just keep a running balance of how much should be in the account versus how much is actually there. And this is your IOU. So it's also good to track your profit as well, because profit's usually the secondary one. Tax becomes quite a large area that you can move money in and out of, but profit tends to grow quite slowly just because of the percentage size that it is. And we want to make sure that we're tracking it and measuring it. Now, if you, on your profit and loss report, if you are not actually profiting, then this balance is going to stay zero until you do start to profit. So if you start to move away 10% or a disclosed, undisclosed percentage amount, whatever that may be, without actually making profit, you're just manufacturing cash flow problems anyway. So we do need to make sure that we are maintaining a profit for this system to work. If you aren't, we've got bigger fish to fry. Now, just some quick takeaways for you. Things to remember. It does take time. It really does take time to build up these cash accounts and build these surpluses. So don't be so hard on yourself if it doesn't work in the first 3, 4, 5 weeks. This is going to take a couple quarters to start to build up the right amounts. But even if you get to the end of the quarter and you've got half of your tax bill there ready to go in cash, that's still a great step in the right direction. So let's just remember that it does take time. I want you to remember that IOU is not a bad thing. That's just a strategy or a stepping stone that we're using to bridge the gap between where we are here and where we want to be. So IOUs are not bad. We just don't want to let it slip. And also just be a little bit mindful as well of bank fees. So there may be some times where you might choose not to do the transaction because you might pay your ATO bills out of a particular account, and doing that double transaction of a large amount might not be worth the extra $40, $50 of transaction fees. So just be mindful there of that as well. Another reason why we don't have like several different accounts, your OPEX accounts, your wages accounts, because even though it's technical, it also does come with the associated fees too. Some action for you to take away right now. I want you to set up your 3 accounts. So your income, your tax, and your profit accounts. I want you to set yourself some calendar reminders as well. And that could be around the time that you do payroll. Just after payroll would be a great time to do this, so that you've done payroll, you've done your big balance transfer, you're looking at some of the supplier bills that you've got coming up ahead as well, and then you are doing your balance transfers into your cash buckets. And then make sure that you are tracking your IOUs too. So that's it. It's a nice quick one for you today. Next up, head back to the roadmap. This completes the 3-part series that we've got for profit. So we need to find the next bottleneck within the business and start to, or continue to stack these gains one on top of the other. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.